Hey y'all, it's Lindsey. I have had several questions in my comments of some videos asking about Gentle Sweet and homemade baking blend. So I thought I would just sort of show you how I make those things. I'm all out right now, and so I really need to replenish my pantry. I am not sure where I found this particular recipe that I use most often. I do regularly use Neely's baking blend from the video she shared, gosh, what, 4 years ago? That's a really good one. But I've also found this particular recipe that I'm using now, and I've used this one for at least 2 years. And I kind of ebb and flow between whether I have more whey protein isolate or if I have more collagen on hand. That's kind of what determines which particular recipe I choose to make. And today I have the whey protein on hand. I've got my subscribe and save for my collagen coming in hopefully this week. So I'm going to conserve my collagen and I'm going to make this other recipe. I wish I could remember where I got this from. I have scoured and I cannot find it. But if you have seen this recipe before, please let me know if you found it on a blog. I want to give credit where credit is due, and I did not create this myself, but I cannot figure out where I found it. So any help from y'all would be greatly appreciated on that front. Also, with Gentle Sweet, it's a very basic recipe. A lot of people use the conversion chart for Trim Healthy Mama, like on their website, to sort of determine how they make their recipes. There are a ton of recipes that are all identical as far as I can find, so I'm just going to talk you through that too.
To start with this recipe, we're going to need oat fiber, coconut flour, almond meal, whey protein isolate, flax meal, and glucomannan. I like to mix this baking blend up in my blender to make sure everything is evenly distributed and very well incorporated. This recipe calls for 1 1/2 cups of the oat fiber. Next up is 1 1/2 cups of coconut flour. And then we add 3/4 of a cup of almond meal. This is that Bob's Red Mill that I personally like because it's really finely milled. And then 3/4 of a cup of the whey protein isolate. Next, we will add 1/2 cup of flax meal to the blender. I'm using just regular flax meal. You can choose to use golden flax meal, which will give it a more uniform color. Then I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of glucomannan powder. I like this konjac root one. It's on subscribe and save. Go figure. Now I'm going to go blend it all together so that it's well incorporated, and there you have it. I like to store my baking blend in a 1/2 gallon sized jar in my pantry. And I have discovered that this is a very messy process for me, and using the measuring scoop to just spoon it into the jar results in the least amount of mess for me. I know this takes a lot longer for me, which is somewhat irritating, but here in a minute you're going to see me attempt to pour it from the blender into the jar, and it will make a mess. I personally love to make my own baking blend because it is somewhat expensive to buy from the Trim Healthy Mama website, and you tack on shipping costs, and it's just a lot more money than what I'm willing to spend. There is a bit of an upfront investment into all of these ingredients, but whenever I buy them, I buy my oat fiber by the 5-pound bag. I get that whey protein in 3-pound quantities. You know, I buy everything in bulk, and I'm usually able to get a lot of batches of baking blend out of each, I guess, bulk purchase, which makes it worthwhile to me. Okay, next up is homemade gentle sweet. There are tons of recipes out there, but what I like to do is use 1 cup of granular erythritol, and half of a teaspoon of that powdered stevia. And I'm gonna go blend that up until it's super fine, powdery goodness. Think the texture of powdered sugar. And you're gonna see it poof. Yep, that powdery consistency is exactly what I'm looking for. And I also transfer that into a half-gallon jar and keep that in my pantry. I find that this can also be messy to transfer from my blender into my jar, but using a spatula seems to keep it down a little bit. It does have quite a bit of static electricity in there, so it's kind of clingy, and it will go pretty easily if you go nice and slow and try not to rush the process. But it's definitely worth it to have this blended up whenever I want to bake something and the girls are asleep. I do not like to run my blender whenever my kids are asleep because it is very loud and very powerful, and their bedroom is directly above the kitchen, so I like to keep things like this on hand in my pantry at all times. And there we have it. Homemade gentle sweet.
Okay, I'm happy. My pantry is back fully stocked. I can go back to making my muffin in a mug master mix. I can go back to making Jack, which is just Jared approved chocolate. It's like skinny chocolate. I know I've said that a dozen times at least, but I'm fully prepared to bake and to have sweet treats in my house again. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate any of the comments that you leave, letting me know if you have seen that DIY baking blend recipe. Like, I'm dead serious. I wish I could remember where I found that. I have hunted for it and I cannot seem to find it anymore. So if you can find it, I would greatly appreciate your help. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments below, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.